This morning we're going to hear some wisdom from Charles Spurgeon, 1865. And then we're going to hear what that wisdom sounded like in 1939. And then what it sounded like in 1993. And then you're going to live, I hope, the rest of this day so you can see what it looks like in 2020 to live this wisdom. So Charles Spurgeon asks us to do some comparing. And I'm going to ask you this morning to do some comparing. He said, look at your possessions, O believer, and compare your portion with what other people have and what other people live for. He said some people have this huge portion and their investments are yielding them a huge harvest. But then Spurgeon says, what are those harvests compared with your God, who is the God of harvest? He says, what are, bursting pantries and unlimited dining at fancy restaurants compared with him who feeds us with the bread from heaven? Some people have their portion in stocks, and their wealth, some of the time, is abundant and flows to them in constant streams until they become a very reservoir of gold. But what is gold compared to God, who has blessed you with every spiritual blessing in Christ? In him we have more than gold or riches could ever buy. And all that sounds nice, but I want you to take a minute and see if you actually believe that. And if you do, thank God. But if you are not quite there this morning, would you take a minute and just pray that God would give you that kind of perspective, that you'd be able to say, Lord, you are more precious to me than gold or silver or stocks or checking accounts or savings. Would you just say that to the Lord and let that become true deeply inside of you? And here's what all that sounded like in 1939. Well, I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. I'd rather be his than have riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than houses or lands. I'd rather be led by his nailed, pierced hand than to be the king of a vast domain and be held in sin's dread sway. Well, I'd rather have Jesus than anything this world affords today. And Spurgeon goes on and he makes this point. He says, you can't not live on gold. Your spiritual life cannot be sustained by it. He said, there are griefs in life which wealth cannot alleviate. There is the deep need of the dying hour for which no riches can provide. Here's actually some real practical questions for you to consider. Those of us who are motivated by that dollar. Put money on a troubled conscience, Spurgeon says, and can it allay its pangs? Apply possessions to a desponding heart and see if it can help even one groan. Can it give one grief any help at all? Let's look at another thing that we often live for, and that's men's praise and applause and adulation and approval. Spurgeon says, ask yourself, is not your God more to you than all of the applause all of the approval that anyone could ever possibly imagine having? What if 1,000 people, he says, were applauding for you every day? Would that get you ready for heaven? Would that cheer you up when you have to stand before God on the day of judgment on your own record or on the record of what everybody else thought about you? Would that help you any one bit? But when you have God for your portion, you have more than all else put together. In him, every want is met, whether in life or in death. With God, your portion is rich indeed, for he will supply your need. He will comfort your heart. He will comfort your grief. He'll guide your steps. He'll be with you in the dark valley. He'll take you home to enjoy him as your portion forever. Again, as we've said on these 8 at 8s before, when you stand before God, you want to stand clothed in the righteousness of Jesus Christ, which means that you want God to be looking at his record, not yours. And so why not live today believing that God is enough? What an amazing day you would have if you lived like that. And so here's what this message sounded like in 1993. Silver and gold, silver and gold, I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. No fame or fortune, no riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. Don't give me a mansion on top of a hill. Don't give me the world with a shallow thrill. But just give me a Savior, my life he can hold. I'd rather have Jesus than silver or gold. Silver or gold, silver or gold, I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. No fame or fortune, no riches untold. I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold. I hope this morning that you've made that transition in your heart from whatever it was that you were thinking about living for today and the priceless worth of God and the priceless worth he says you are. There's nothing that can compare to what he thinks about you, to the applause he's giving you, to the future he's offering you, to the love he has placed on you. So why would you live trying to amass any other kind of wealth or possession or value? Would you live today knowing that you would rather have Jesus than anything?